Hello and welcome to Lecture 16. Today we are talking about famine relief. And really this isn't much about famine relief, as much as this is about our obligation to help people who are suffering. And today we're going to be reading an article by Peter Singer. Singer is writing through analogy about a shallow pond. So let's get started today with our learning objectives. In this lecture series, you should be able to first define some key vocabulary terms such as Singer's principle, identify Singer's main argument, and be able to explain how the shallow pond is used as an analogy. And third, I would like for you to be able to analyze some objections to Singer's argument and then identify ways that he may rebut those objections. So let's start with the shallow pond, part 1. So Singer starts with a story. At this point, you know the story. You watched a little video that explained it. You read it. So I'll just quickly summarize the main parts of this story. Every day you're walking, you pass a shallow pond. It's just deep enough that a child could not touch the bottom. Today, as you're walking by, there's a child drowning in that pond. No one else is around, just you and the screams of that child. You know that if you don't jump in to save him, that child is going to die. Unfortunately, you are also wearing a brand new pair of $200 pair of jeans or some designer shoes or, a watch that's not waterproof. And you don't have time to take them off before jumping into this muddy pond, which will clearly ruin the pants or ruin the shoes or destroy your watch. So, not wanting to ruin your pants, you just continue on your way, heading into work. You hear the child gurgling as he finally sinks beneath the surface and dies. What a morbid way of starting this lecture today. So the analogy of the shallow pond, and ultimately Singer's asking is, do you have a moral obligation to save that child? Is failing to save the drowning child morally wrong? But my pants, but my shoes, but my watch, but someone's life. So most would agree that should you choose to save the pants and let the child drown, that you would be something akin to a moral monster. Now, what this means, and I think what this means, is that by failing to save that child, and people's objections to it, I think most people would argue that you ought to sacrifice your $200 clothing in order to save the child. I think that's just maybe universal. Maybe there's some people who would disagree. But I think it's safe to say that universally we would value someone's life at over $200. Now, consider this. Every year, 5.3 million children under the age of 5 will die of easily preventable, poverty-related causes. They die by starving to death, or die by thirst, or die from starvation-related illnesses and diseases. And all of these are easily treatable. So this number, I recording this in the midst of the COVID epidemic. So we get numbers of thousands of people die every day. But this would tell us this number, 5.3, is akin to 14,500 children every day, or 605 every hour, or 1 death every 6 seconds. Now, meanwhile, the richest 1%, I'm talking globally, the richest 1% own half of the entire world's wealth. With just the 26 richest individuals owning more than the bottom 50% of human beings. That's 3.8 billion people combined. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty crazy, unless you're one of those 26 people. But yeah, those 26 individuals own more than the bottom 50% of all human beings on the planet combined. To give you some more context, you would qualify as being a top 1%er of the entire world if your net worth is $871,320 or more. Currently, it's estimated that 1 in every 7 Americans is a top 1%, global top 1%. A mere $93,170 in assets makes you a global top 10%er. Half of all Americans are in the top 10% of global wealth. We as an American people spend thousands of dollars each year on luxuries. We buy new models of iPhones every year. We buy new laptops and giant televisions, multiple giant televisions, and place them on our walls. We fill our garages with expensive cars, and we wear new and expensive clothing, designer clothes, which we switch out every season as colors and trends evolve. We spend our money on expensive meals, all of this while children are starving to death. During that 1 hour that you're eating at that fancy restaurant, 605 kids are dying of preventable deaths caused by starvation or starvation-related illnesses and diseases. So, this begs the question, are your shoes worth more than someone's life? So Peter Singer is arguing, he believes that failing to help starving children is no different morally from failing to help a drowning child in the shallow pond. Consider this. In the shallow pond, you have the ability to easily prevent a child's death, though doing so will cost a luxury item. But by donating around $200 in famine relief, you could prevent one child from dying of poverty-related causes. So Singer's argument is looking something like this. Premise number 1. Not saving the child in the shallow pond case is seriously morally wrong. Premise number 2. Failing to donate to famine relief to save children who are dying due to starvation is morally analogous to not saving the drowning child. The two are the same thing in Singer's mind. Therefore, failing to donate to famine relief is also seriously morally wrong. You know what we're talking about. When those advertisements come on TV late at night, showing starving children with flies in their mouth and bloated stomachs, and you quickly change the channel so that you don't have to see those images or think about that, he's saying that is seriously morally wrong. It's akin to you walking past a child who's drowning in a shallow pond, and you don't want to get your shoes wet.